The Song of Ashara. The horizon glittered at dawn, the sky painted gold as the first rays of sunlight rippled over turquoise waters. Nature itself seemed to breathe in music. Seabirds treed their greeting, waves crashed in rhythmic cadence, and the wind hummed a low resonant tune. It was as though the world had been woven from melody and motion. Before the world was born, there had been only silence. Then came the loom of songs, spun from fire, breath, and the deep pulse of the sea. From it, life awoke, and every being was gifted a voice to keep harmony, a voice to keep the silence away. Below this glowing sky, nestled between cliffs and reefs that glimmered like jewels, an island village stirred to life. Palm trees swayed in rhythm to the villagers' daily chants. Fishermen pulled in nets to the beat of their own voices. Children laughed and sang in harmony with the trill of birds and hum of insects. Music was everywhere, shimmering in the air like threads of light. Yet, on the edge of the square, a young girl named Ashara stood apart. She was 15, slender, with storm grey eyes that held too much seriousness for someone her age. She stepped toward a group of children singing in a circle. Their voices rose and danced together, weaving faint lights in the air, threads of color spinning like tiny ribbons of magic. Ashara opened her mouth, desperate to join, but no sound emerged, not a note, and the threads of light vanished instantly. One of the children frowned, another smirked. "She has no song," one boy said, mocking her. "Maybe the world forgot her," another snickered. The group erupted in laughter, the sound sharp as stones. Ashara clenched her fists, holding back tears. Without a word, she turned and fled down a narrow path, leading toward the shoreline, where the sea whispered to itself under the setting sun. Ashara sat alone on a rock, skipping stones across the waves. Each stone landed with an unnatural stillness, no satisfying plunk, no melody of water greeting stone, just silence. Behind her, an old woman approached, Helani, her grandmother. Her face was lined with wisdom and time, her movements slow but sure. She sat beside Ashara without speaking at first, simply watching her. "You throw them too hard," Helani finally said, her voice soft as driftwood, worn smooth by the tide. "Stones want to dance, not sing." Ashara offered a weak smile but said nothing. "You're carrying that silence again," Helani murmured. Ashara's jaw tightened. "I don't carry it. It follows me." "Perhaps," Helani said, "or perhaps it is yours to shape." "What shape?" Ashara snapped. "It's nothing. Everyone else has a voice, a song. The word gave me emptiness." Helani reached for her hand, placing it gently over her own heart. "Child," she said softly, "even emptiness has a sound. You just haven't listened deeply enough to hear it." But before Ashara could respond, the waves suddenly stilled. The wind faltered. Seabirds froze mid-flight, their cries vanishing in their throats. A dreadful hush fell over the shore. Ashara looked around, panic rising in her chest. The silence spread. The drums in the village failed to beat. Songs crumpled into nothing. The air itself felt heavy, oppressive, unnatural. A man banged two stones together in desperation. No sound came. Children whimpered, clutching their mother's skirts. Elders exchanged frightened glances. The great silence, one villager whispered, voice shaking. It has returned. No, another murmured, eyes wide. The loom cannot break. Ashara gripped her grandmother's arm. What's happening? She whispered. Elani's gaze was grim, shadowed with fear. The world's voice, she said, is unraveling. Storm clouds gathered above the village, lightning flashing without sound, thunder rolling invisibly. Ashara pulled open the door to a hut tucked deep in the shadows of the cliffs. Inside sat Taver, the blind storyteller, his cracked drum resting across his lap. Charms hung from the rafters. Maps of strange islands were spread across the walls, marked with symbols and runes. I felt you coming, Tavia said without turning his slightless eyes. Even in silence, your footsteps are loud. Ashara swallowed, nervous. You know what's happening? Tell me. The sky loom, Tavia said, running his fingers over the silent drum. The weave of the world. It has torn. And through that tear, the great silence seeps. Ashara's voice trembled. Can it be mended? Yes, Tavia said, but not by one who sings. He turned toward her then, his milky eyes narrowing. Only the songless, he whispered, may weave it whole again. Ashara staggered back, shaking her head. Me? No, I can't even. Nothing, Tavia interrupted, his voice firm. It is the vessel for everything. From a small carved box, he withdrew a glowing seashell, pressing it into her palm. It pulsed faintly with warmth. 3 chords have been lost, Tavia said. Fire, breath, deep pulse. Find them, bind them, or all songs will be swallowed forever. Ashara stared at the shell, torn between fear and determination. Under a moon veiled in clouds, Ashara pulled a canoe into the restless waves. She tied the glowing shell into a pouch and took hold of her paddle, heart racing. Suddenly, a splash broke the stillness. A small glowing fish popped beside the canoe, a lanternfish spirit with large luminous eyes. It spoke quickly, words spilling like bubbles. Well, well, it chirped. Songless girl sneaks into the sea with a shiny trinket and no plan. What next? Paddle yourself into a storm and drown? Ashara flinched. Go away, she muttered. Rude, the fish replied, pouting. Most people say, thank you, mysterious glowing fish spirit, for blessing me with your company. I don't want a loud-mouthed fish in my canoe, she said, shoving off. Too late, the fish answered, grinning. I'm Rivo, and I'm coming with you. You don't know the currents or the storms or the monsters. Did I mention monsters? Ashara groaned. Why me? Because you can't sing, Rivo said simply, eyes gleaming. And sometimes the world needs silence to hear itself again. Ashara paused, staring at him. Then she looked forward, determination hardening her features. Without another word, she paddled into the dark horizon. The open ocean stretched endlessly, dark and glassy under the shrouded moon. Ashara's canoe creaked as it drifted across black waves that looked like melted obsidian. The only sound, or what should have been sound, was missing. Even the wind, which rippled across the water, made no whisper. Only Rivo, glowing faintly beside the canoe, broke the dreadful stillness. "Storm ahead," Rivo said cheerily, though his voice trembled. "Big one, clouds, lightning, terrifying death waves. We should definitely turn back." Ashara dug her paddle into the water, her grey eyes steady, not turning back. Defiant silence gave the fire's glowing white fish. "Shocking," Rivo muttered, zipping in nervous circles. "Fine, don't listen to the experienced aquatic guard. When we're swallowed by sea dragons or eaten by sky serpents, don't say I didn't warn you." But Ashara didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the horizon, where the storm loomed like a wall of darkness. Jagged veins of lightning flashed, blindingly bright, but they came without a sound. The silence was more terrifying than any thunderclap could be. By the time Ashara's canoe washed onto the black sand of the volcanic island, the sky was streaked with crimson. The sky shimmered with heat. Steam hissed from fissures like snakes whispering threats. Above it all loomed a volcano, its slopes glowing red with slow molten rivers that slithered downward. River floated just above the sand, dimming his light nervously. "This is it, the first chord, the flame below. It's here, but it's not happy." Ashara climbed upward, her hands trembling from exhaustion and heat. The paths wound between chasms of glowing magma. She could feel the mountains pulse beneath her feet, a deep, uneasy rhythm. Shapes moved in the smoke, faces forming and dissolving, shadows watching her from the shifting haze. Her breath quickened. "They are watching me," she whispered. Before River could respond, the ground split open with a crack. A massive figure rose from the molten depths, a colossus of lava, taller than the tallest palm trees, its skin glowing with fiery cracks, its eyes burned with white hot like twin suns. It stepped forward, boom, but no sound came, only the side of its titanic foot striking the ground. The silence made the scene more horrifying, as though the world itself held its breath. River quaked, darting backward. "Oh, nope! Absolutely nope! Run! Songless girl, run!" But Ashara didn't run. Her knees shook, but Tavi's words echoed in her mind. "Nothing is the vessel for everything." She dropped to her knees and pressed her palm against the heated ground. The mountain's heartbeat thrummed through her bones. It wasn't hunger she felt, it was pain. Wounds, deep and burning. "You're not hungry," Ashara whispered, eyes wide. "You are hurting." She drew in a breath and tried to hum. The note was faint, broken, almost non-existent. But the shell in her pouch glowed, amplifying her fragile attempt. Light rippled from her hand into the heart. The colossus stilled, its blazing chest splitting open like a flower. Within lay a fairy orb, throbbing with rhythm. The orb floated upward, settling into Ashara's shell. The flame below. The colossus lowered itself slowly, retreating into the mountain's core like a sleeping guardian soothed of its pain. Ashara collapsed, trembling, her skin slick with sweat. River floated closer, stunned, his usual wit momentarily gone. Then with a grin he said, "Okay, not bad for a mute girl. Still think we should have run though?" Ashara allowed herself a small exhausted smile. By the next morning, the sea had turned strange. merging with the sky until Ashara's canoe seemed to drift among clouds, where winds spun lazily, carrying sparks of lightning that flickered silently. Shapes moved through the mist, vast serpentine bodies, coiling and glittering like silver rivers. River hovered low, his glow dimmed to a nervous flicker. "The breath above," he whispered. "Sky serpents. They eat boats for breakfast and possibly glowing fish. We should probably hide." One of the serpents uncoiled, a creature of impossible size, its scales refracting light like shards of a broken rainbow. It lowered its massive horned head, eyes gleaming with intelligence and malice. A voice boomed, not aloud, but inside Ashara's mind. "Another mortal comes to beg," the serpent mocked. "Pathetic. Where is the song, girl? Oh, you have none. You are empty, worthless." Ashara's hand trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall in her canoe. Her lips moved, though no sound escaped. "I may be empty," she shouted silently, "but I can carry what others cannot." The serpent's laughter rolled through her mind like a silent thunderstorm. It launched, jaws yawning wide, enough to swallow her whole. Rivo darted frantically. "Do something! Anything! Scream! Bob! Dance! I don't care! Just—" Ashara leaped. She sprang from the canoe into open air, arms outstretched, trusting the shell's glow. Streams of wind coiled around her, wrapping her body like ribbons. She hung suspended, hair streaming, eyes fierce. The serpent halted, shocked by her defiance. Slowly it bowed its horned head, releasing a sphere of shimmering wind. The breath above. It drifted gently into Ashara's shell. Then, with a flick of its colossal body, the serpent vanished into the cloud, leaving the air clear and still. Ashara dropped back into the canoe, gasping. River hovered close, wide-eyed. "You're insane," he said softly. "Brave, insanely brave, but insane." Ashara gave a tired laugh, but her eyes were bright with determination. The waters grew darker, thicker, as though the world itself had sunk into a dream. The moon cast only the faintest sheen on the black waves. River's glow barely pierced the gloom. "This," River whispered, "is a bad idea. The worst idea. I should have been a farmer, glowing seaweed farm. Very safe, very warm. Not this." Ashara ignored him, clutching the shell. She could feel the third cord somewhere below, the deep pulse. A ripple disturbed the water, then another. Something vast moved beneath the surface, larger than mountains. A single eye opened, luminous and lidless, staring at her from the abyss. The Leviathan. Its presence pressed against her like the weight of the ocean itself. Her breath caught. The silence felt crushing. The Leviathan rose, its mouth yawning wide, an endless cavern of shadow. It sought to consume her, to pull her into eternal quiet. Ashraf's lips parted, but no voice emerged. She couldn't fight the silence with sound. Then she felt it, her heartbeat. Weak but steady. She pressed the shell to her chest. The breathing pulsed outward like a beacon. The Leviathan hesitated, the silence around him trembling faintly. From its massive chest drifted a glowing orb, the deep pulse. It sank into Ashara's shell, completing the triad of chords. The Leviathan lowered its gaze, then sank slowly into the abyss. The waters calmed. River floated near her shoulder, unusually quiet. Finally, in a small voice, he said, "You are not nothing." not empty. You are terrifying and kind of wonderful. Ashara managed a tired but genuine smile. As dawn crested over the horizon, the shell glowed brilliantly, containing all three chords. Ashara held it high, watching threads of light ripple across the sky, forming the faint outline of something vast, the sky limit. The path to it shimmered like a glowing bridge over the sea. Rivo hovered beside her, looking nervous but trying to sound brave. "Well," he said, deadpan, "this is the part where we die or serve the world. 50-50 odds." Ashara gripped the paddle and whispered softly, "No more silence." Together, they turned toward the glowing gateway and paddled into destiny. The canoe glided across the sea that shimmered like polished glass. Above, the heavens stretched into infinity, woven with radiant strands of light. Each thread pulsed and hummed faintly, a song, alive, vibrating with life. This was the sky loom, the heart of creation itself. Ashara stared in awe. The loom was beautiful, but broken. Great gaps tore through the threads, and from these rifts spewed black void, like ink bleeding across cloth. Where the void touched, the glowing strands shriveled and died. River hovered uneasily, trying to sound casual, though his glow flickered nervously. "So, the loom, the place where all the songs live, looks cozy." Ashara's fingers tightened around the shell, which pulsed with the three chords, flame below, breath above, and a deep pulse. Her storm grey eyes shone with both fear and wonder. "It's broken," she whispered, "and something's waiting in the cracks," Rivo muttered. From the largest tear it emerged, the silence, a shapeless, shifting shadow that devoured light as it moved. It had no face, but mouths opened and closed across its shifting surface, voiceless and terrible. Hands stretched out, then dissolved, reforming endlessly. Every moment left threads of the loom shriveling into nothingness. The canoe trembled as the silence surged toward it like a black tide. Ashara stood tall, clutching the shell. Her knees shook, but her jaw set. River darted in panic circles. "Okay, okay, okay. Big plan time. We run. That's the plan. Paddle like mad and—" "No." Ashara's voice was firm, even in whisper. "I came here for this." She stepped off the canoe, her bare feet touching the threads of the loom. They glowed faintly beneath her weight, but quivered as if uncertain. The silence hissed, spreading tendrils toward her. Ashara raised the shell high. "You won't take this world." Light burst forth as the three chords spiraled from the shell. Flame, breath, and a pulse. They wove around her in radiant ribbons, struggling to bind together, but they faltered as silence weakened them. The silence struck, crashing over her like a wave, pulling her down into its endless dark. Ashara fell through blackness. There was no up or down, no light or sound, only nothingness. The three chords flickered weakly, straining against the suffocating void. Voices whispered from the shadows, cruel, distorted echoes that gnawed her spirit. "You are nothing," one hissed. "Empty, forgotten," another sneered. a flaw in the song. No one hears you, no one needs you. Ashara gasped, clutching her throat, as if the words had stolen her breath. Her body began to unravel into heart-like fragments, dissolving into the void. Tears spilled in her eyes, but then warmth against her chest. Beneath her trembling hand, she felt it, her heartbeat, weak but steady, a rhythm, a sound that belonged to her. Her tears burned into determination. I'm not nothing, she thought fiercely. I can carry every voice because I have space for them. Ashara burst upward out of the darkness, landing again on the trembling threads of the loom. Her storm grey eyes blazed with light. The shell glowed brighter than ever. She raised it high and shouted, her voice breaking but real. Sing through me! The three chords answered. Flame rolled, wind howled, the deep pulse throbbed like a living drum. The ribbons of power surged from her body into the loom, weaving brilliant strands of sound and light. The silence writhed, its form twisting violently. Rivo cheered wildly, darting around her. Yes, do the thing, the loud glowing world-saving thing. But the silence lunged again, wrapping around Ashara's throat. She gasped, choking, her voice faltering. The cords flickered. River's glow blazed as he shouted desperately, Hey, songless girl, you are not empty. You are the bravest, craziest, most stubborn human I've ever met. And you're my friend, so sing, blast it. Ashara trembled, laughing through her tears. She gripped the shell, pressing it to her heart. Then she opened her mouth. This time, her voice rose. Fragile, yes, but strong. And she was not alone. From within her poured the voices of the flame colossus, the sky serpents, the leviathan. Behind them, faint but rising, came the voices of her people, a chorus, a weave. The loom blazed to life as threads knitted together in radiant harmony. The silence shrieked, not with sound, but with violent distortion, twisting until it could no longer hold form. It unraveled, dissolving into nothingness. The sky loom, whole once more, stretched into eternity, pulsing with music. Ashara fell to her knees on the glowing threads, the shell dimming in her hand. With one final shimmer, it crumbled into dust, its task fulfilled. Rivo floated close, his wide eyes filled with hail. Then he smirked. Told you we wouldn't die. Well, 50-50 odds, I was half right. Ashara laughed shakily, tears streaming down her cheeks. She looked up at the loom, alive and singing again, its voice echoing through the world. The first light of dawn fell over the island village. Flowers burst into bloom. Reefs glowed beneath the waves. Birds filled the sky with jubilant song. Everywhere, music rippled through the air, richer than it had ever been before. At the shore, Elani stood waiting, her eyes lifted toward the sea. And then she saw it, a small canoe returning home. Ashara stepped out, weary but radiant, her grey eyes shining with something new. The villagers stared hail as silence fell across the square, not the heavy silence of dread, but reverence. Elani came forward, cupping Ashara's face in her hands. Her voice trembled with pride. You were never silent, Ashara. You were listening for the word's voice, and now it listens through you. Ashara's eyes filled with tears. She smiled, then hummed softly. For the first time, her voice carried, not alone, but woven with countless echoes, like the world itself sang through her. The villagers lifted their voices, joining her. Songs rose into the air, intertwining in bright harmony, and there was Riru, floating nearby, tried to hum along terribly off-key. Not bad, he muttered with a grin. For a girl with no song. Above them, the sky loomed stretched whole and radiant, its infinite threads humming with unbreakable music. And through it all, Ashara's song wove steady and true.